Hey everybody, how are you? I have a fun question for you today. If you had, I don't know, 3 wishes, a genie in a bottle, a magic wand, whatever it is, and one of your wishes would go towards changing the state of music today, whatever it might be, what's popular, whatever you want to do, what would your wish be? I'm going to reveal what mine would be, and I'm sure it's probably no surprise to anybody who knows me. Alright, so here we go. Coming up. Boom! Okay, so what would I do if I had that magic wand? Or let's just make it a genie. If the genie came to me and said,
Sunil, what do you want? What are your wishes?
My answer would be very simple. Bring back rock and roll, make it popular, make it cool. I want to see it. I want to hear it everywhere. I mean, I want new bands that are continuing the vein of Motley Crüe and Whitesnake, Van Halen, all the stuff that some of you out there hate. But I don't care. I want fun rock and roll with awesome riffs, big catchy choruses and hooks, all that stuff. I want it to come back. Loud and proud and virtuosic playing snuck in there, you know, Eddie Van Halen, all that kind of stuff. That is what I want. So what I decided to do for fun is I asked our good friend ChatGPT, what would it take to make rock and roll come back as a driving force? I now share results with you out of it. So it starts out by saying, for rock and roll to come back as a driving cultural force, like in the era of Van Halen, Journey, Queen, and Def Leppard, it would take a perfect storm of cultural, technological, and artistic shifts. Here's a breakdown of what the revival would realistically require. All right, number 1, a new generation of charismatic rock icons. I'd have to agree. It says, rock stars used to be larger-than-life personalities. Think Freddie Mercury's flamboyance, David Lee Roth's wild antics, or Slash's iconic look. Yeah, I can't disagree. Each of those guys, I mean, I could talk forever about. I mean, the way Freddie just went out there to Live Aid and just owned that audience. I mean, think of, you know, we still have David Lee Roth. I mean, clearly he's not a young rocker like he used to be. But, I mean, just go back and watch, you know, music videos by him just jumping up, kicking in the air, all that stuff. It's, I would love it if we had stuff like that again. And maybe we do, and I'm not aware of it. So, I don't know. Please, I mean, enlighten me. If there's bands out there that you love today that do this kind of stuff, throw it in the comments. Let me know. I do know about bands like the Struts and the Greta... what are they called? I'm sorry, the Led Zeppelin influenced band. Greta, I almost said Greta Van Susteren. Greta Van Fleet. I do know about that, and yeah, I probably should check it out more, to be honest. But anyway, it's added. Today's artists need to bring virtuosity and spectacle and rebellion, but updated for modern times. Stuff like TikTok, live streams, metaverse shows, etc. Yeah, you know, we can't get around that we have TikTok, and that actually could be very valuable. It might take the right viral moment to bring back a resurgence. Imagine if we had the right band out there, and they were doing amazing stuff, and people really started to catch on to it. That could do it. So, it goes on to add, the problem is many younger audiences relate more to relatable artists than to untouchable gods. That image would have to evolve. Yeah, I mean, with social media and YouTube, you can just right away find out so much about people and internet. There's not that mystery that we used to have back in the day when all you had was just a CD, or, I mean, obviously before that you had an album cover. There was a lot of mystery. You didn't know all this stuff about people. Now you can just go to YouTube and find everything you want to know about an artist and where they stand on anything. There is a certain just thing about the mysterious part that really is very alluring. So, all right, it goes on to say mainstream media support. In the 70s and 80s, MTV and radio helped shape rock into a cultural monolith. That is true. Now, you know, we didn't have MTV till the late 80s in my house, but I did have friends who had it, and while I wasn't watching hard rock videos there, you know, I remember seeing Lionel Richie, Madonna, Prince, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, that was so huge back in the day. And we all know what happened with MTV. God, it just became reality shows and just all this other stuff. Can you imagine if we had something like that? I mean, like MTV, that would just make everything cool again. The thing is, we have YouTube, and you can see any music video you want, but there's just something about having less options. We didn't have that back then, and being force-fed things, that makes it that everybody grew up with the same stuff. That's, you know, sometimes less choice, you know, has its appeal. You know, we all grew up in that era, and we all have certain things in common. There was less choice of what we were fed, but we all grew up knowing Wheel in the Sky by Journey. Now that one I do remember, even as a kid. So, yeah, MTV, that was definitely a thing. Let's see, it goes on to say, today pop, hip-hop, and EDM dominate algorithms, playlists, and chart metrics. So rock and roll would need rock and roll would need visibility on platforms like TikTok, short, riff-heavy clips that could trend, Netflix. Yes. Imagine if there was a show, I don't know, let's look at that movie that Lindsay Lohan had back in the day, the Freaky Friday. I remember she was in a rock band, a girl band, I guess. Imagine that there was a show that came out, you know, next week, and it was set in modern times, and some kids kind of discovered that they love Led Zeppelin. That would be cool. They discovered they love Led Zeppelin and Boston and all this stuff, real rock and roll from the 70s and 80s, and they decided to write stuff around that. Imagine if we had a show like that, and it was a series, and they started, you know, sounding like their icons, but in their own way, not quite ripping it off like, you know, some would say Greta Van Fleet does. You know, just a little bit more of their original kind of thing, but still catching those elements that make it actual rock and roll. The rebellion, the riffs, the virtuosity, all of it. See, that's the thing. There's so much virtuosity. I can't talk. There's so much virtuosity if you go to Instagram and YouTube and see all these amazing players. All these great, amazing guitar things are being done, but where's the songs? You know, if you could actually take some of those people in those amazing Instagram reels and put them up, put them in a band, and let's just make some 4-minute rock songs, and they can still have their time, you know, make some amazing solos in there. Make it happen. God, I would love to see, you know, some of these people I see out there making songs with singers. I mean, they can start as collaborations on, you know, TikTok or whatever it could be. This is just me postulating a whole bunch of ideas, and just thank you for listening. Just what I would do in a perfect world. So, it also mentions video games. Yeah, when, you know, I used to teach guitar lessons for about 20 years. And I remember when Guitar Hero came out, and that definitely got some kids, you know, playing guitar again. There was a bit of resurgence. And, I mean, there was all that classic rock stuff. I remember I taught stuff like Scorpions. But yeah, all that stuff, it became popular again for a minute. So that's another way to do it. I mean, have some kind of video game that promotes rock and roll. So Netflix shows, maybe movies, some stuff like that. Make it about some people who are young, maybe not 13 or 14, that's a little too young. But, you know, 19, 20, 21-year-olds forming a rock band and becoming cool. Yeah, we need today's Van Halen is what we need. All right, it goes on to say, new anthems that would unite people. Queen had We Will Rock You. Journey had Don't Stop Believin'. Van Halen had Jump. Rock would need timeless, high energy, emotional, gripping songs, not just retro pastiches. I don't know what that means. That hit hard across generations. Yes, we would certainly need some anthems. But some of this goes back to what I was just talking about with we were all force-fed the same stuff. Like, we all watched MTV together back in the day. So we all had that in common. We Will Rock You, Don't Stop Believin', Jump. I remember all that stuff as a kid. Because we all grew up with that limited, you know, diet of music, we all have that in common. So that it's a two-edged sword, having the internet. You have so much thrown at you, and it can go viral. But you know, people who are maybe just into EDM might not check this stuff out. So Whereas when you had MTV, everybody was watching it, so we all saw the same stuff. So it goes on to say, rock and roll has always thrived as rebellion music against disco, against synth pop, against bubblegum. Yeah, that could be true. Yeah, and that can get political real quick, can't it? And in today's day and age, that's kind of I just want to stay out of that. So, if the cultural climates shift away from hyper-curated, ultra-safe content, rock and roll would be the middle finger music again. Yeah, that would be something. And in today's, everything's so polarized against each other. God, if you have the wrong stance on something in music, that can affect you, because half the country might hate you. If they could just stay out of it and just concentrate on making music, that could make things easier. Find stuff that brings everyone together. Just have songs about just love and everything, just fun stuff, partying. That would be that could be cool. It goes on to say, a new youth movement rejecting algorithmic sameness could revive interest in raw guitar-driven sound. Well, we never know what's going to happen. It can be very unpredictable, honestly. As far as a rebellion and everything and what could be popular next, I don't know. But yeah, they're certainly onto something. I mean, Netflix. Look at what Netflix did with, Stranger Things. Master of Puppets got popular again for a little while, and obviously the Kate Bush song, Running Up That Hill, that she would have never seen that coming, that was going to become massively popular again, like it did. So, the young kids, they love it. They realize there's some great stuff back then, and they just aren't aware of it. My kids are, I'm very happy to say. I'm raising my kids right when it comes to music. And other stuff. They're good kids. So it goes on to say, embracing, not fighting modern tech. Rock purists sometimes shun technology, but imagine guitar-based AI plugins that let teens shred at home. VR concert experiences where you're on stage with a band. Now that could be kind of cool, having an Oculus video or a VR thing when you're like right there in the concert. That would be awesome. Can you imagine? Wow. I'm sure somebody's done this, where you're at a rock show and you look around and you see people there and you're watching the band. Wow. Imagine if you could control yourself to walk up there and go right in front of them while they're performing. That would be cool. Man, if somebody could do that with like old Van Halen, where you walk up on the stage and you're literally watching David Lee Roth right in front of you, that would be amazing. Oh my God. Walk right back there. Somebody's got to be able to do it, I'm sure. Considering what we could do these days, it can't be that hard. That is another dream. Maybe it'll have to be another video. I want to be able to get on stage with Van Halen in 1977 and have David Lee Roth do one of those kicks right in front of my face. I want to walk right on stage with Van Halen on Live Without a Net and feel like I'm there. That would be awesome. Oh my God. I only just thought of that doing this video. So, all right, let's go on. What else does it say? Mentorship and gateways. Rock doesn't die, it just hides. Kids aren't exposed the way they used to be. Yep, that is exactly what I've been saying. Too much variety of choice. With the internet, you can check out anything, which is good and bad. Again, we all had MTV. We're all force-fed the same thing as kids, and when we were younger. But, again, look at Stranger Things. That brings this stuff back, and kids realize, there was amazing stuff back then. So it says more crossover moments are needed. Rappers sampling Zeppelin riffs. I remember somebody sampled Kashmir back in the day. God, was that Puff Daddy? No, but I just feel like I said a bad word just mentioning his name. Rock guitars featured on pop records. That used to happen back in the day. Look at some of my other videos I've done on You Won't Believe Who Played on This Album. I'm not even going to spoil any of them, because I want you to watch them and see if you can guess. I kind of made it like a trivia thing, or a little game. Yeah, God, if we could have, some of these, oh man, take some of these Instagram amazing players like Barenth, Rick Graham, Stevie T, Jared Dines, put them in there. All right, I'm solving the world's problems. Take some of those guys and put them on a Beyonce record. Lady Gaga, let's do that. I want Lady Gaga to please put Barenth on one of your CDs, on one of your tracks, whatever. And by the way, speaking of Barenth, he did a cover of Pachelbel Cannon for the Cobra Kai thing recently. I was kind of hoping that would go a little more viral and get some more attention on him, but I'm not quite aware if it did or not. Sure, it didn't hurt, and he's a great player, and he seems like a very cool dude. So, yeah, if you haven't checked out Barinth, please do. Let's move on. What else does it say? Final thought. Rock doesn't need to look like it did in 1984 to thrive again. It needs the spirit, the danger, the defiance, the musicianship, the emotion, delivered through a modern lens. If someone combined the swagger of Van Halen, the anthem power of Queen, the hooks of Journey, the visual dominance of TikTok or Fortnite, what? I don't know. All right, so I get it. Yeah, it doesn't have to look like 1984. They don't have to do all the big hair and hairspray and makeup. I'm fine with whatever it might be. I mean, plenty of people look cool and didn't look like they were in glam bands. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. All right, guys, thank you. Bye-bye.